people are like outraged at this. And it's like, they're like, I can't believe Notre Dame's getting this special treatment. I was just like, wait till you hear about if you're mad about this, wait till you hear about the special treatment G5 teams get. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Moving the Goalposts. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. You can follow us across social media at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Johnny at Montalbano NY. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network. And you can listen to Moving the Goalposts wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe. And this show is presented by Playback. Stay tuned for later in the show to find out more. All right, so the final college football playoff rankings are out. And there's a lot to get to with this because I think we could probably spend the whole show on the college football playoffs. I'm no joke, like I haven't been listening to any podcasts about college football before going to bed because it would keep me up because I wouldn't stop thinking about it. I've legit been having nightmares about college. Like these past couple of days, I've had dreams. I've had at least one dream that involves the college football playoff, like something that involves the college football. Like I'm not even joking. Like it's actually because like here's the thing. I work in the news and I was working the night when I thought World War III was going to start when we struck Iran in the middle, I don't know, over the summer. And I went to bed. I slept like a baby that night. And I thought, like World War III doesn't keep me up. The college football playoffs keep me up.
Well, it kept all these guys up. I mean, they said the committee was debating until about 2:30 in the morning.
That is so funny to me. By the way, that is so funny to me how I wish that like, I was listening to Joel Klatt talk about this, and he was arguing that, I probably should have had the audio. I'll probably do the audio for the college football show. But I remember I was listening to him, and I like Joel Klatt a lot. He's one of my favorite college football podcasters. And he said...
Awesome analyst too, yeah.
Yeah, great analyst.
Absolutely.
Actually, I was watching the Indiana-Ohio State game, and he was calling it. I was like, it's so weird hearing him call a game. It's like when your teacher is. It's kind of like when a teacher is like teaching a different subject. You're like, you're not supposed to be teaching this.
Well, yeah, that's true because you had Gus and Joel at 8:00 at night on Saturday night. So
I understand it's big noon games, but I always sleep through the.
I don't know what was more strange, that or the fact they had a Big Ten game at 8:00 at night. But
that's super weird too. All the good Big Ten games, they're all played at noon.
Yeah. Exactly, but go ahead.
And he was saying that he wants less transparency in the process. He compared it to how a hot dog is made, and it's a really good analogy. He was like, you don't want to know how the hot dog is made, and my thought is, I think that's the problem with that is, first of all, I have much higher standards for college football than I do for hot dogs. I mean, college football is a sport that me and him and you certainly are all following religiously throughout the season. College football is my favorite sport by far. And I would watch more of it if I could. Whereas hot dogs are things you eat only on occasion because it's not good for you. Hot dogs are not things that you eat every day. Or something like it's like college football is a part of our lives every single day, and we're watching it every Saturday. I don't think it's quite the same. Like I do have higher standards for college football than I do for hot dogs. So that's a little bit of an issue that I have with that.
I kind of get where he's coming at with that.
I understand where he's coming from completely. The problem is that I don't think hot dogs are a very good analogy. I don't know. I just have a higher opinion of college football or any sport for that matter than I do of fucking hot dogs. Like that's ridiculous.
That's fair.
The other, and also like we can get that's something you don't eat a lot of. Whereas college football, we watch every Saturday. The other reason is this, and this is actually the more important point. the committee lost the trust of the public. They lost their credibility in a lot of ways. And the problem with losing your credibility and then going to less transparency, and he was arguing in favor of like what they do in basketball, where they just have the selection show and you don't see what happens before. And the problem with doing that is that would make a lot of sense. That would be a fair thing to do if they were doing that the entire time, like from the very beginning. In 2014, when they first created the college football playoff, that would be fine. The problem is that you can't lose the trust of the public and then say, you know what, we're going to hide all of our decisions, which we used to show you because you didn't like it. It would be like if you find out your wife was cheating on you because you saw her phone, and then she's like, "That's it, I'm going to change my password now." And like that doesn't really work very well. Like, so you can't like lose the trust of the public and then say, you know what, we're going to hide it now, and we're only going to show it to you, on selection day. So that to me, I think, is an issue. Maybe the problem beforehand was showing everybody what's happening, all their decisions beforehand. But I take issue with, but I actually like the transparency of it, because I do. And it might not be good for the committee, but I don't care about them. I like the debates about who should be ranked where. I like those debates. Maybe perhaps I think they start a little too early. I think the first week of November, probably a little too early. I'd be in favor of pushing it back a couple of weeks. But I do have an issue with the whole, well, we have to hide this. Like, I don't think they should. Maybe, like, I do think they come out too early. I'll give you that. But I really just like the transparency of it all, because at least, if anything, I want more transparency. I want them debating. Like, I want members of the committee to like go up and go on ESPN and debate it. Maybe have a representative. I think maybe they should do that.
Well, wow, you threw a lot at me there.
I'm sorry.
I think you're right though, because there's a few things I was thinking about. Is number one, and a couple of people had said this too, is do you get rid of the selection shows, the what is it, the 4 that they have before the grand finale? Maybe you drop it down to, maybe you get rid of it at all. I don't think that's realistic. Do you drop it down to maybe 2, or do you keep it at 4? But you have to find a way. Like what they do on ESPN is it's very exclusive, and on a couple of those shows, they're only on for less than 30 minutes. I mean, they're doing in between, a halves of a double header in basketball. Maybe it needs to be more than 30 minutes. Maybe it needs to be more than an hour. I mean, because what are you filling? Let's be honest. What are you really filling your time spot in on a Tuesday night in November? Now, I know there's hockey, but they could do hockey at the start and then, transition that over to a different night, or maybe transition it over to like ESPN Plus or something. Maybe it needs to be more than an hour, because you don't really, by the time you reveal it, and then you have your panel, and maybe you have Heather Dinich, you're already almost through the full hour. And you obviously, and also the CFP chair, that's basically your hour. Do you need maybe 2 hours? Do you need 90 minutes? Or maybe do we need fewer of them? I think getting rid of it totally is not realistic. It was my first thought when the final rankings came out Sunday, when I was out watching it Sunday before the NFL slate that kicked off, is do we need to just get rid of this entirely? But I don't think that's realistic.
But the problem with getting rid of it entirely is that the public doesn't trust them now, and everything's going to be some type of weird conspiracy when the selection show comes out.
Well, but the thing also is, now that you have all 4, now that you're going to have you're still going to have the 4 weeks leading into it, is I don't know if people are going to trust it even then. Now, I think going into next year, now maybe you have an entirely different committee next year, because we did. If you remember this year, the committee was made up of some different members, and I know there's always some changes with it, but I don't. This also was a very, very unusual year too. I mean, and that's another thing too. Was a very unusual year for them, in that you had so many SEC teams possibly be in it, and the way that they clarify these, when you have to have the 4 main conferences and then one group of 5 conference and stuff like that, and then the independent, in all of this. That's what really throws us off. And I even said to you last week, I said Notre Dame's throwing this whole thing off. Now, I didn't realize they were going to throw it off to this thing, but it's going to be like this going forward because Notre Dame's going to throw this for years to come.
If Notre Dame had just joined the ACC, this would just not be an issue. If they just joined the ACC,
I wonder. I've always said in my lifetime, I don't think Notre Dame's ever going to join a conference. I wonder if something like this makes it at least a little bit more likely for that to happen. But I don't think, though, like it's not going to be next year. Yeah.
Here's the thing. The reason they won't join a conference is probably because of their NBC deal.
That's it.
It's really all about money. It's the same reason all these teams are jumping conferences. It's really just about money. The funny thing is that some really unthinkable things in college football have happened in my lifetime that I never thought would happen before Notre Dame joined the ACC. Think about it. We had a 12-team playoff. Imagine if I had told you Stanford and Cal will be in the ACC before Notre Dame joins a conference. Cal in the
I would believe
Coast Conference.
I would believe it.
You don't need to know anything about college football to know how absurd that sounds.
And just going back to Notre Dame for 1 second, they're making about $50 million per year with the NBC deal, which runs through right now 2029.
But does that mean that they can't have that deal if they're in the ACC? If they were,
it says here ensuring Notre Dame's independence. So
why does that ensure their independence? I'm just curious as to why. Do you know why?
I mean, I would have to read through this.
There's got to be something in like fine print that says that's got to be why.
So it was. Let's see here. I would have to look through this, but I would imagine though it would have to be that. Now the thing though is NBC does have Big Ten Saturday night.
Yeah,
but Notre Dame is exclusively their home games are exclusively on NBC platforms.
I'm just curious, would that not be able to happen if they joined the ACC or any conference for that matter?
I would have to really
I'm just curious because I haven't really looked into it. I was always wondering maybe that was why.
So I would think maybe that does have something that would have to be, and I would have something to do with it. Is they're independent?
Yeah, I don't know. And here's the thing: people are criticizing Notre Dame for not joining a conference and how they're gaming the system by not joining a conference. And some years, I think that's true, especially with the 4-team playoff. I think some years with the 4-team playoff, Notre Dame was either got into the playoffs or was ranked higher because their schedule was very easy and they only lost one game or they went undefeated. That certainly was true, and it certainly can still be true in the future. But this year was not a good example of it. This year, actually, if they had joined the ACC, they very likely would have played an easier schedule. I know this because they played a tougher schedule than probably every ACC team did this year. So everybody's saying, well, they should join a conference. It's like, well, look, I looked at the schedule of every ACC team. Notre Dame played a tougher schedule than all of them, certainly a tougher schedule than all the top teams in the ACC. I know this because none of the top teams in the ACC played each other. People saying, well, they should join a conference. Okay, fair enough. But it's like this year, if they played in the ACC, they probably would have played an easier schedule. They probably wouldn't have played Texas A&M in week 2 if they had played in the ACC. So actually it's the other way around. I think they screwed themselves by not playing in the ACC, by not joining the ACC. And I say the ACC because if they're going to join a conference, it's going to be the ACC. They're an ACC team in basketball. They're affiliated with the ACC. They have a deal with them. So if they're going to join a conference, it's going to be the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the Big Ten like some people are saying it's going to.
Why would they join the Big Ten though? What do they have?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, what?
A lot of their non-conference, a lot of their games are in the non-ACC games or against the Big Ten. The only thing with
the NBC angle to it all.
Geographically, they're in Big Ten country, but they wouldn't join the Big Ten. I'm sure they'd join the ACC because they're affiliated with the ACC already. In fact, they were an ACC team in 2020, the COVID year.
Well, yeah, it took the COVID year for that to actually happen. That's true. And geographically, as we've learned, doesn't make a difference.
It took a whole pandemic to get them to join a conference.
Well, I mean, very unusual circumstances.
And in terms of, and here's the thing, though, I would rather it be like this in terms of what happened with the rankings. And look, regardless of where you think Miami and Notre Dame should be, I feel like I'm the only one left still defending Notre Dame getting into the playoff. And including people I really like and respect, Joel Klatt, Colin Cowherd, some of my favorite people, just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were saying like they had Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami. And now they're saying, well, the committee got it right with Notre Dame putting Miami ahead of Notre Dame. And it's like, well, why did you change your mind from 3 weeks ago? Nothing actually changed from 3 weeks ago. So like to me, it's like, well, what actually changed? And my issue with the committee is, look, if they had just said we're putting Miami ahead of Notre Dame, I would probably disagree with that, but I would understand why. And I could say, okay, at least you're being consistent with your logic. But when the rankings first came out week 10, Miami was ranked 18th and Notre Dame, I think, was ranked 9th or 10th. And I can pull it up. And since then, everything that happened pretty much was to be expected. Both teams ran through their schedule. The only thing that happened that Miami did was they beat Pitt by a much bigger margin than we thought, but so did Notre Dame. Yeah. So neither team, like nothing actually happened with either team that realistically should get the committee to change their minds. The only thing that happened was that the SMU and Louisville losses were further away, but so was the Miami-Notre Dame head-to-head game. So by that logic, that should also matter less. So nothing actually happened within that time frame to lead you to believe that to like logically get the committee to change their mind. Everything for both teams went according to plan. So why would they set the stage that Miami was ranked 18th and Notre Dame was ranked 9th or 10th, wherever it was, and then like how can you set that stage when the game had already happened? They had already played each other. How do you come out now and then put the teams next to each other and say, well, there's like no difference in resumes, we have to go to the head-to-head? You're not being honest, because if that were the case, Miami would not have been ranked at 18th. Now, I understand certain things happened where Louisville dropped out, Georgia Tech dropped out. A few of the teams between Miami and Notre Dame lost, but there were some other teams between the two of them that did not lose. I mean, I can pull up the rankings right now just to be sure, but so looking at the rankings in week 10, here's the thing. Miami was ranked number 18th. Now, let me be clear. At the time I said it too, Miami was ranked too low, way too low at the time.
I remember you saying that.
But I thought it was ridiculous that they didn't value the Notre Dame win at all. They were ranked behind teams that had no good wins other than Louisville, who beat Miami. So they were ranked behind those teams. So, and I agreed with them being ranked behind Louisville. But, Utah, Virginia, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, none of those teams had any good games. Georgia Tech beat Clemson, but, frankly, Troy almost beat Clemson, for God's sake. I mean, that's not really a good win. So they completely undervalued that win, almost ignored it, basically. And I thought USC, for the record, was also ranked, and Iowa were also ranked too low. It's neither here nor there. So, but since then, the only two teams that dropped out, and maybe Virginia, you can also argue, were Georgia Tech and Louisville. So, but since then, Utah has not lost. Vanderbilt has not lost. If anything, Vanderbilt's resume got better. So why is it that Miami jumped those teams? And I think they were bullied by the public a little bit, or maybe it was something to do with having to get an ACC team in there, something like that. But it's like, the committee can't be serious with this, because you can't go from Miami is ranked eight spots below Notre Dame to the final week of the season when nothing changed at all, and then say they have identical resumes, we have to go with the head-to-head. Like that to me is just so contradictory. Take one position or the other.
That's exactly right. They value head-to-head. They make it a very significant factor. I mean, they've done that all the time. That's why I really wasn't bothered with the fact that Miami got in and we didn't get in, but it was just because – but it was what you said. Why were they 18th 4 weeks ago and not above us 4 weeks ago? Because I wouldn't have had a problem with Miami being above us 4 weeks ago because that head-to-head did mean something. We saw it with Alabama and Oklahoma this year. We saw it a few years ago with Texas and Alabama, where Texas was always ahead of them because of that head-to-head meeting. And remember, that was week 2. So if anybody wants to say that the Notre Dame Miami thing was early in the season, well, that Texas-Alabama game a few years ago was very early in the season too. That shouldn't matter in that situation, the head-to-head, when it happens, because you play them when you play them.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way you could break that tie is have them play this weekend on a neutral site and see what happens, but you're not going to do that. So,
yeah,
I mean, and look, the other thing too with this, and I know you probably wanted to bring this up, and I'll bring it up to you now, is the whole Alabama thing. I mean, here's the thing with that. I'm not as angry with that as other people are, because here's the thing: if Alabama did not make the playoff, I think this, and I tweeted it out Saturday night when I'm at one of my friends' many Christmas parties that I'm having this year. I was at a friend's Christmas party Saturday night. We're watching the game, and I tweeted out in real time: if Alabama does not get into the playoff because they played in the SEC championship, then this sport is going to revolt.
Yeah.
And you
can't punish a team for losing in a conference champion in a game that they earned.
And what ended up happening was, and if you look at it, was that loss was to the SEC champion, and they have a win in the regular season in the regular season against the SEC champion.
Yeah,
you can't knock them out. Now, do you want to say that you could drop them further than 9? I mean, that's one thing. I mean, if you wanted to drop them like to 10 or something like that, that's one thing. But they can't be knocked out because they played in the SEC championship, because you know what's going to end up happening? A lot of these schools are not going to play in these conference championships. Yeah. And you know what the conference championships are going to mean? Absolutely nothing.
They arguably mean nothing now. I mean, nobody even really cares who wins this conference that much.
Well,
but
I could say that, yeah, I agree with you in some
ways.
They
do have playoff implications. They do.
Well, the Big Ten championship game Saturday night, really, what really transpired from that? I mean, maybe from a mindset from Indiana, it really was a cool thing to say that you won the Big Ten championship and you're Big Ten champions. But that wasn't going to be the worst thing in the world of Ohio State didn't win the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so in a lot of ways, I mean, as it is, the conference championships are not as special as they were in years past, and also because we don't have as many conference championship games as in years past. But I think that if you didn't put Alabama in because they have 3 losses and because they lost to Georgia,
saying Alabama has 3 losses is technically true, but misleading. It's like a lie by omission.
It's 3 in number only, really. That's really
you have to be fair to Alabama and say they have 2 losses, because that was a game that they earned, and chances are all the other SEC teams that didn't make it probably would have lost that game too.
I agree with you, and you've been much higher on Georgia than I've been this year. But the other thing too is with Bama, I know they probably have the worst loss in losing to Florida State, but they also have some very impressive wins. I mean, remember it's not like Alabama had this favorable schedule this year. I mean, they had one of the more challenging schedules that they've ever had in their program's history. Now, and the other thing, people are trying to also pick in the fact that, well, they didn't really play that great against LSU. They didn't really play that great against Vanderbilt, or they didn't really play that great against
Vanderbilt's a good win.
Vanderbilt was a pretty good win, and it was actually also a great effort also from Vanderbilt's side too, because the final score of that game was actually much closer than it ended up being. But I mean, you could say they're not against Oklahoma. They struggled against South Carolina, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they have some very quality wins on the team. I know the Florida State loss is an ugly loss. I get that, but you cannot now discount the fact that they had a win against Georgia.
And in fairness,
Georgia ended up being the SEC champion.
And in fairness to Alabama, first of all, I think teams evolve throughout the season. And I think Florida State started off a better team than they finished. And I also think Alabama got off to a slow start. Not that the game shouldn't count. But the other thing that I want to point out is, it's not a good loss. But, so I'm not going to say it's a good loss. But it was a non-conference game. It was a game that they scheduled. So to me, it's like I would rather not penalize teams for losing games that they schedule against other good opponents. I mean, unless, of course, it's like Florida losing to South Florida or something like that, which is like a pay-for-play game. But good non-conference games are not things that I want to punish, especially when it's the last week of August.
And the funny thing is, if you remember too, Notre Dame made the national championship last year, and that was after they lost to Northern Illinois at home.
Yeah.
No,
worst. Well, the thing is, last year there weren't a lot of good. The thing is, last year there were not a lot of good quality teams that could have made the playoffs. I mean, Alabama had the worst year that I probably since before Saban.
Oh, easily.
Or maybe Saban's first season.
I mean, they're almost trending towards that way this year too for a little bit, especially after they lose to Florida State and you look at the schedule they have coming. Nobody would have thought. I would have told you, I didn't know they would have had to played unbelievably well, and I wasn't a big fan of their quarterback, but Ty Simpson ended up playing great.
Ole Miss had a couple of bad losses that year. I know they lost to Kentucky last year, although they were close to being a playoff team. SMU, they were 11-1 in the regular season. Their only loss was to BYU, who's a good team, although, frankly, they didn't have any good wins. But I guess the committee valued their being undefeated in their conference. Even though I think you could have made an argument for Ole Miss or Alabama above SMU. I think you could have made an argument, but Alabama, I just didn't care about Alabama not getting in because it's like the last week of the season, you get blown out by Oklahoma, one of the worst teams in the SEC. I mean, you got cooked by Jackson Arnold. Yeah. Like that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like when it comes to the playoff rankings, and and Notre Dame not getting in, I don't think Notre Dame got screwed because Miami got in instead of them. I think they got screwed by the format. If we had a 12-team playoff that's where you just picked the 12 best teams with no qualifiers, I think the committee would have made a couple of mistakes, but Notre Dame certainly gets in. But under the current system where we have automatic bids and an automatic group of 5 team, not just, and this year it wasn't even just one, it ended up being 2 effectively. 2 automatic group of 5 teams, you end up putting a team in there that everybody and their mother knows it has no business being there. James Madison went 11-1. And my thing is, if you're going to be in the college football playoff, you should at least play against Power 4 competition. Like that's the issue. James Madison went 11-1. How many Power 4 teams would probably go 11-1 with James Madison's schedule? It's probably more than half. So James Madison went 11-1. They played one Power 4 team, Louisville, and lost. And they can get into the playoff with not even no ranked wins, no quality wins, but 0 Power 4 wins. I mean, imagine if Notre Dame had played the schedule that they played. They won 11-1, and their only win was against Purdue. I mean, that schedule is still better than James Madison's. That resume is better than James Madison's resume, and Notre Dame wouldn't get in that scenario. So why should James Madison get in? And here's my final solution with all this. I think that we should expand the playoff and just abolish bowl games that are otherwise useless, that have nothing to do with the playoff. That's what I think we should do, because you know what? Players don't want to play in them. At least the good ones don't. The players that are going to the NFL. Last year, Cam Ward in the Pop-Tart Bowl, he played until he broke the record for FBS touchdown passes, which, by the way, is a little skewed because now you can stay in college for a decade. So that's like Jason Kidd being like one of the high hitting, like I don't know where he's ranked, but he's ranked very high in like 3-pointers, even though he couldn't shoot because he played for like 20.
Nick Saban's guys would not play in a bowl game. When Alabama a couple of years ago was playing against Michigan, Bryce Young and those guys, Will Anderson They played.
I think that was last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But that was a playoff. 2 years ago was a playoff game.
No, wait. No, didn't they play Michigan? Was that last year? I'm thinking
they
of.
They actually played Michigan 2 years.
I remember they played them in the playoff, but
yeah.
But
Michigan,
in general, any bowl
Michigan.
game they would be playing. But
so the way I see it is, here's what we should do: expand the playoff. And when I say expand the playoff, maybe include play-ins in there. Like, I don't want to abolish bowl games, but I think all bowl games should be meaningful for the playoff. Maybe during conference championship weekend or the weekend or at some point, whenever. And maybe conference championship games can work this way too, where we have play-ins for the tournament, whereas instead of picking the 12 best teams, we at least settle it on the field. Like in basketball, for instance, in the NBA, we have a 7-game series between the 1 seed and the 8 seed. Do you really need to play 7 games to decide who's better between like the 1 seed and the 8 seed, especially in the East? Probably not. But, the point is, I'd rather err on the side of settling it on the field before the playoffs happen or in the playoffs than just a selection committee. I think the committee should have put Texas in over BYU, for instance. But I would rather them play it out and decide it on the field at a neutral site. I'd rather that happen.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to be able to do. And by the way, there's no coincidence that the first round of the playoff, you have Tulane and James Madison. Both of their games are going to be up against the NFL on Saturday the 20th. You think there's any coincidence about that? Because they know how bad those are going to be. The other 2 matchups, Bama and Oklahoma on that Friday the 19th, and Miami and A&M on Saturday the 20th. Those will be pretty cool to watch. Yeah. As Alabama looks to try and get revenge after playing Oklahoma earlier in the year, but I don't know what they're going to decide. I mean, if you remember last year, we said there need to be changes. They decided to go run it back again this year. We'll see. And then, of course, 2 more things from Notre Dame side real quick. Now they're guaranteed as long as they finish in the top 12.
Is that official?
That is, yes. So as long as they play that, they're automatically guaranteed in. And also, I'm a Notre Dame fan too, and I'll say this. I do not like the fact that they withdrew from a bowl game. That is not a good look at all. And other teams following suit, that's not great. It's not a great look. I mean, you know what? I understand you're frustrated, you're disappointed, but you know what? I mean, be above it all. I mean, what is that going to prove? I mean, you're going to have more teams unless you have several teams revolt and not play their bowl games. Now, look, I know there are a couple of others that decided they're not going to play theirs either, but it's just not a good look to do that. I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, what's the point? What's the point you're trying to prove?
Part of the reason I don't really care about it is because the bowl games are useless. The players don't participate in them. And I knew this would happen eventually with players opting out of bowl games, that because they see that they're useless, and teams are going to see the same thing.
Many of them. That's
many of them.
I mean, when you start naming names, I mean, heck, one of the cooler ones was the Bahamas Bowl. That's been killed. It's rest in peace. You know now what it's renamed?
What?
The Xbox Bowl.
Well, I mean,
I'm not kidding you. That's not the Youngin, but that just shows there's just too many. There's too many of these things. I mean, will I watch some of them? Yeah. I mean, I love the Myrtle. There's the Myrtle Beach Bowl in Coastal Carolina, which is about 20 minutes away from where I live. That's pretty cool to have a bowl game down here in the Myrtle Beach area. But I mean, there are too many of these games. I mean, I think that's something. I mean, I know the networks love it, but
I mean, look, I enjoyed bowl season as much as anybody. I really, really do enjoy bowl season. I love watching the games, even when they don't mean anything other than that bowl game. But now we live in a world where there are so many teams that now it's become like the NIT tournament for football. And the difference between football and basketball is, in college, like, football is a much more violent sport than basketball, so players are risking injury every time they're on the field way more than basketball players are. But also in football, there is a lot of teams that will be playing in these bowl games that are way overqualified to be playing in an NIT game. So that's obviously a big issue. I mean, Notre Dame, a lot of the teams that are going to be playing in these bowl games, including Notre Dame, BYU, Georgia Tech. I mean, if you think about it, these teams are so overqualified to be playing in a glorified NIT game. So I think there should at least be a playoff expansion or at least a play-in. Maybe we still keep it with 12 games, but like seeds 13 through 20 have to play a play-in or something like that. Maybe that's not really practical, but something along those lines. I think that would be much better, or like, I don't know, the math there makes no sense. Like it's a 12-team playoff, and then there's like 6 teams or whatever the case may be. It's not really the point. The point is you effectively have a playoff expansion, and maybe there's a play-in tournament, something like that, like they have in the NBA. I think that would be good and then these bowl games can still exist, but at least they're attached to something meaningful. Like rather than players just and teams viewing them as useless bowl games. I think that's better because I think there's a lot of teams this year that are just too good to be playing in an NIT tournament.
Well, as Nick D says that, I'm just looking through the bowl games right now because and the first one is on this upcoming Saturday, the Cricket Celebration Bowl between South Carolina State and Prairie View A&M.
Here's another thing that I think they should also do. I think they should also have a separate G5 playoff from the college and Power 4 playoff. G5 should be separate. And I like that idea because the thing is that I think it would be better for the G5 schools because I don't hate the G5 just because I don't want just because I want, and by the way, just to get back to the Notre Dame thing for a second with them being guaranteed a spot if they're in the top 12. And people are like outraged at this. And it's like, they're like, I can't believe Notre Dame's getting this special treatment. I was just like, wait till you hear about if you're mad about this, wait till you hear about the special treatment G5 teams get.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Notre Dame has to be ranked in the top 12. I mean, G5 teams just have to be better than all the G5 teams.
Yeah.
Look, the outrage at Notre Dame when it's often the same people that are cheering on the automatic bid for a G5 team. I just can't take that seriously.
And Notre Dame's going to have to run the tape. They're going to have to go undefeated really to be in the top 12 because their schedule next year not that great.
And at least with Notre Dame, it's like if Notre Dame's ranked in the top 12, it's pretty safe to say that they're a playoff worthy team. If the 20th ranked team is in the G5, a team ranked 20th, it's pretty safe to say that they're probably not worthy of a playoff spot. Which is why I say there should be a separate playoff because people would watch it. I would absolutely watch it, and it would be better for these G5 schools because most of it's pretty safe to say that a G5 school in the Power 4 is not going to like win a national championship. They're probably not going to make a run, and the thing is that it's also better because most of the time there'll only be one G5 school. This year there's 2, but usually only one that makes the playoff. But every other G5 school, it has to play in basically like a useless bowl game if they're lucky. Wouldn't it be better if we had a playoff? Now, I don't know exactly what that format should look like. I don't know a ton about the G5, but don't you think it would be a lot better if more G5 schools could compete for something rather than just one most years, this year 2?
I guess my only question and concern with that would be the timing of it all. Like how long would this all take to figure out? Because I know this it's already extended into late January. I don't think you want to be going any further than it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, I guess my only concern would be that it might get overshadowed. But the truth is, it could go on at the same time as the college football playoffs. They can happen on weekdays, like have it on separate days. I mean, maybe like the college football playoff semifinals is on usually it's on a Saturday. You have the G5 semifinals on a Friday. Like it could just be on separate days.
And their problem, though, also the playoff is, and I know we'll move on, is now the NFL is getting involved. They're leaning into NFL time where now like I said earlier, you have 2 of the 4 games on Saturday, the 20th, going to be going up against 2 NFL games in those similar spots. And you know that the majority of the country is still going to be on the NFL, which speaking of the NFL.
Okay. So actually, I do want to talk about because when I think, look, I love college football more than anybody, but it's my favorite sport. But the NFL is more popular objectively, and that's really just because college football is not popular in New York or Boston or Philly or anywhere in the
Yeah,
Northeast.
that's the thing. I mean, it's not popular in the Northeast. I mean, it's
I
almost
think
everywhere.
a perfect representation of this actually was when I went to Vegas. And I enjoyed being in the sports book for the college football game, for the college games more than the NFL games. Because for the NFL games, you couldn't get a seat. The sports book was so packed.
Fair.
Sports book was kind of packed for college, but not the same as the NFL. I could always go get a seat. So I think that's a really good representation of the popularity of the two sports, that the NFL just obviously beats college
Well,
football.
yeah. I mean, what's the highest mark that you'll get in a college football game, really? Now, part of that also is because the games are on ESPN and they're not on broadcast TV. That could have something to do with it. I mean, if you remember back in the day, it was the national championship was on ABC. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a factor too. If you had it on a broadcast channel, would it draw maybe 50 million? But
Yeah.
50 million, that's what the NFL is doing on Thanksgiving. But we know the NFL is king and it always will continue to be.
Yeah.
And speaking of which,
my entire life, the NFL was the most popular sport. The crazy thing is that in like my parents' generation, like when my dad was growing up, probably younger than like as a kid, baseball was the most popular sport. And now baseball is like the thought of baseball being a more popular sport nationally than football, it just feels so like unfathomable. Like that's
not even close. I mean, if people want to say baseball is more popular than it's ever been, I'm like that. You're not really saying much. I mean, they're excited when they draw 13 to 15 million for the World Series. I mean, the NFL is doing that on a bad day. They're drawing 15 million.
Although people confuse baseball not being as big as football with baseball's a dying sport, and that's also not true. Baseball is popular. It's just not as popular as the other sports. Every sport is just more popular than.
And it's also not getting as much attention too, which in years past, which for a variety of reasons, you could spend hours talking about.
Because the thing with baseball is that I think the other sports debates, like with college football, for instance, NFL, NBA, there's a lot of debates that create a lot of splash. Baseball is much more reserved for the diehard fan. There's a whole lot of I just think it's a little different. Like in baseball, the biggest debates are about Hall of Fame players. It's who's better between this player and that player typically.
It's two things. It's the Hall of Fame and this time of the year, the hot stove. Yeah. Which is quite ironic because this week we had a major thing happen locally in the New York area with Edwin Diaz leaving the Mets to going to the Dodgers, and that sparked the whole thing. But briefly, if we have time,
we're not going to have time to talk about it much. But I do just want to say, and I'm a Met fan, so it sucks that he went to the Dodgers. However, I think that's the reason the Mets signed Devin Williams, because they knew there's a good chance they weren't going to be able to keep Diaz. I don't think that the reason they didn't keep Diaz is because they signed Devin Williams. I think it's actually the opposite. I think they got Devin Williams because they thought we wouldn't be able to keep Diaz.
But did it bother you? I mean, I know you're a Met fan. Did it bother you the fact that apparently they had offered him, it was, what was it, $66 million, and he went to the Dodgers for $69?
I wouldn't say it bothers me. I mean, if he just took more money to go to the Dodgers, then it's like, all right, well, they offered him more money.
But the thing is, though, then you're creating this whole thing where you have now you have basically a super team out in LA where everybody's now going out to the Dodgers. And, you have some diehard fans on social media saying that this is only going to contribute more to the lockout, which is going to happen at the end of next year.
Maybe. I mean, look, it bothers me that he's not on my team, that he's not on the Mets anymore. I mean, that bothers me.
And also you still have to go out there and win it. I mean, just like when the Yankees spent all their money on their players, and I'm a Yankee fan, so I can tell you this. Just because we spent all this money doesn't mean that we're going to win the World Series. It gives us a better chance to win the World Series, but that doesn't mean we're going to win it.
The lockout, is the lockout supposed to be this year or next year?
At the end of next season.
Okay, so 2027.
And it's good at the end of the 26th season.
The end of the 26th season.
And it's going to happen. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, because the biggest thing right now that's going to be stopping the biggest issue right now between the MLB and the MLBPA is the salary cap. And, those two sides can't agree on anything. I mean, you think politicians can't agree on anything. I mean, they pale in comparison to what the MLB and the MLBPA can't
Yeah.
agree. I mean,
I don't want there to be a salary cap in baseball. I don't like it. I don't like salary caps in general. I'm not a fan. I think that
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
like my view is I don't think there should be any salary caps. I think that, look, spending money doesn't mean you're going to be smart with that money. Because just because you spend a lot of money doesn't mean it's going to, like, there's no guarantee that's going to be a return on your investment. You could just as easily waste that money as you can spend that money. And I just don't really think salary caps really necessarily work all that much. Like in basketball, these teams really just find workarounds usually anyway. Like that's usually just what happens. Like with Kawhi Leonard, and it's probably not the only case. It probably happens in other cases.
Oh, there's several, yeah.
I mean, like Pablo Torre was talking about the Knicks with Jalen Brunson, and I'm not accusing the Knicks of anything, and neither was he, but it is a little suspicious that his dad is an assistant coach on the team, and those salaries are not public. They could effectively indirectly pay Jalen Brunson through his dad. That could happen too. I mean, like it's not that difficult to jump to that conclusion. Anyway, getting to this game, this bad beat that everybody's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And it is weird to me that this particular game, this particular bad beat is getting the amount of attention that it is. Because I'm old enough to remember earlier this season, the Eagles-Rams bad beat. The Rams were setting up for a field goal to kick the game-winning field goal. And I think they were down, 1 point or 2 points, and the spread was something within 7. The bottom line is the Eagles blocked the field goal, ran in for the touchdown, which was useless anyway. They won the game at that point anyway, but it was a big fat guy. And whenever big fat guys have an opportunity to score a touchdown, they always do it. Whereas like guys that are smaller and faster, they just run out of bounds. And I'll tell you this, I was on the wrong side of that one. I had real money on the Rams in that game and the Eagles, and then I got screwed. And in this one, I had the Raiders. And I was on the right side. So gamblers have won and lost bad beats. Every single one of us. Now, I don't view this bad beat as, I mean, it's egregious. I wouldn't say anybody, but anybody who follows sports gambling knows that there's been a lot of bad beats just like this. I mean, they really aren't all that much different. I mean, okay, they were down 10. They kicked a field goal to be down 7. In the final seconds of the game, but it's like, and people are like, the field goal was useless. And I was like, well, yeah, of course it was. But so would scoring a touchdown. I mean, that would have taken even more time. Even if they scored a touchdown, got the 2-point conversion, they still lose. So like, and at least with the touchdown in that case, you're risking injuring your players much more as opposed to just kicking a field goal. What I think really just happened was they were trying to go kick a field goal down 10, go get the onside kick, and then score a touchdown, and then hopefully score a touchdown to tie the game up. The problem is that they just, in very Raiders fashion, mismanaged the clock miserably. I mean, and then just ran out of time. That's really all I think it was. Pete Carroll, I don't think was even aware of the spread. Am I crazy? Because I just think Pete Carroll, I don't think coaches are even aware of
I don't think Pete Carroll was, but you have to also understand that we're living right now in a time, and of course, because we talked about this story on the show, we're living in a time right now where there are gambling scandals going on. So of course, like right now, it's almost like we're living in a world where you're in the gambling world where you're guilty until proven innocent, and that like you automatically assume what it was. So if you don't realize what it was, so it was 24-14. Broncos were 7.5-point favorites. The total in the game was 40. It was 40.5, and I also more specifically, the Raider team total was 15.5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were 3 things that either hit or miss, depending on it. And you can also check back on my show, Football Forecast, later on in the week. And I'm sure we'll have a word about that because a bunch of us ended up on the wrong side of it, whether we took the under or we took the Broncos. But, I mean, that's neither here or there. I think that's the thing really, because it was the first thing I thought of when this had happened. I don't think Pete Carroll, because, Pete Carroll's not that kind of guy. I don't think he even was that. I think you're right. He was looking to try and get the ball back, number one. Number two, there was also a penalty on that drive, which allowed that field goal to actually happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's ultimately, it's the gambling scandal that we're still in the midst of, that there could be some more stuff that are coming out. I think there's going to continue to be stuff that comes out. We keep hearing about gambling things that are happening, not forget just in the pros, but like in the lower levels, or even like the NCAA, or even like high school sports, that there's stuff coming out. So that's why this has really ended up being like a big deal. Now, is this the worst bad beat of the year? It is not. Like you said, there's so many of them.
I don't even really think it's all that close, actually. Like, there are some worse beats.
I agree with you. Look, now you're talking to somebody who's 20 games under 500 on the season in terms of his NFL picks. So this is the kind of look. You're 20 games under 500 because you have situations like this. It's happened numerous times this year. I can't remember a year with either so many bad beats or so many favorites not winning and covering. 2 weeks ago in week 13, there were 10 underdogs that covered the number. So it's just been that kind of year. And it also speaks to the NFL as a whole, in that there is no real great dominant team that you can really trust right now. I think you can trust the Rams, and that's really it. I mean, the Broncos have won 10 straight, but do you
really trust the Rams? They just lost to the Panthers.
Well, and maybe the Panthers are actually not that bad of a team. I mean, they still have a chance to win the NFC South, for however you want to say that. I mean, they still have 2 games against the Bucs. So the Panthers could win the NFC South at the end of the day, and they have pretty good home wins this year to the Panthers. So it's not, and road wins too. So it's not like the Panthers of the last 2 years. They're actually making improvements.
Well, actually, one of the worst beats in college this year was Penn State was playing Villanova.
Yes.
I think it was like 46.5 or something like that. But Penn State ended up winning 52-6. But that's only because Villanova had like a last-minute drive to end the fourth quarter. They scored a touchdown literally as the clock ran out, and that covered the spread. So that's also a really, really bad beat.
The college football bad beat. I mean, you think the NFL beat bad? You think the NFL bad beats are bad? They pale in comparison to the college ones.
Yeah, and also in college basketball, it's like those beats. I mean, I don't gamble on basketball much, but college basketball has some absurd bad beats. I mean, what we just saw with that field goal is the equivalent of a team that's where in garbage time, where a player hits a 3 to cover the spread, like a meaningless 3.
Yeah, from 45 feet out.
Yeah, from 45 feet, and you're like, what the hell just happened here? That's just the nature of gambling. That's really, honestly, just a risk you take. And when you gamble for a reason, you're on the right side sometimes, and you're on the wrong side sometimes. That's just the nature of it.
And we could have, I'll bet you right now, we'll have a few more of these before the end of the year. We might come back on the show next week on our season finale and be talking about it.
Look, I understand a lot of this has to do with gambling and like legalized gambling and like the whole perception of games being rigged. But the thing is that I think scandals are not what you think. Like, I don't think the scandals that actually happen with games being rigged are the ones that seem obvious. It's the ones that you don't expect. There's a reason that when Tim Donaghy was caught, or when Terry Rozier was caught, the public was caught by attention, because it's not like when those things happened, everybody was like, oh, this is obviously rigged. I mean, it had to actually come out. Like, when you look at Terry Rozier, and I understand all the highlights of Terry Rozier looking like he was purposely trying to lose. But when that happened, nobody said anything. It was only after the FBI actually was investigating him and everybody knew about it and saw it and was like, oh, wow, this is obviously egregious. So if you're going to rig a game, it wouldn't be like this.
Of course, yeah.
But that's what makes no sense. And the thing
would be obvious.
And here's the thing. Vegas is so good at this. So that's why a lot of this stuff is going to happen, because Vegas is the best at evaluating teams.
And the public goes with it.
So more likely than not, an over-under, a spread, team total, that's going to be close to the line that Vegas sets, because Vegas has to approximate what the most likely outcome is. That's their whole job.
Right.
So
and the public
obviously it's going to be close. So the whole thing is ridiculous. I do want to talk about Phillip Rivers. It might become the Julio Franco of the NFL. What is he, 44 years old?
Here's a funny thing. So he's 44. Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Colts, is 40.
Imagine. I can't imagine taking orders from somebody 4 years younger than me.
Well, and think about it to the point where think about how we got to this point, because that this is what's really crazy about all this with the Colts. So Daniel Jones, who first half of the year was playing great, was healthy, hit a little bit of adversity, having throwing some interceptions, getting sacked, turning the ball over. Then he gets hurt, and we find out that he's got this like fractured fibula that he's getting. That actually some of his Duke players, I believe, had a specialty formatted brace or something for him to play with, and then he's playing through the injury. And he's down there in Jacksonville where the weather was horrific. It was raining. It was ugly down there last Sunday. And he suffers and he gets hurt on a non-contact injury, which, of course, that's the thing. It's the non-contact injury. I mean, when you saw that in real time, I was out at the bar watching this on Sunday, and I saw it happen in real time because it was one of the games I put on. I wanted to see it because I thought it was a very cool, very important matchup in the AFC South. And I saw it happen in real time. It was a non-contact injury. The first thing you thought of was ACL or Achilles. Yeah. And, I mean, look, I give Daniel Jones a lot of credit because, he didn't even go out on a cart. He walked off onto the sideline and, ended up going to the locker room, then coming back out, watching the game. He's got that foot. So he suffers an Achilles injury. Already your original backup, Anthony Richardson, still in IR from an orbital bone injury that he suffered not in the game, but I think in a warm-up. So he can't go. Then you put in Riley Leonard, former Notre Dame and former Duke player. So you had one Duke quarterback replacing another Duke quarterback. And he ends up hurting himself. And we find out as the week has gone on that he actually has a knee. I think it's a sprain. It's like a knee ligament sprain or something. But it's a knee injury. So he's up in the air for Sunday. So your only other guy, I believe, on the roster was Brett Ripien, and if you've seen him a couple of times, you know how bad he is. So that's what it took for this to happen for Phillip Rivers. And I was watching Adam Schefter on NFL Live on Tuesday, and he's saying that there's a possibility that if Riley Leonard cannot go, that Phillip Rivers could be ready to play by Sunday. So he goes from trying out from 5 years away. He has not played an NFL game in almost 5 years to possibly coming into a spot where the Colts are trying to make the playoffs, trying to win the AFC South. And the first game he's got to come into is in Seattle against one of the top teams in the NFC.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be crazy.
You couldn't write a story about it. I mean, you couldn't make this up in Hollywood if you tried.
Yeah, I know. It's totally unbelievable.
I mean, if you made this up in Hollywood, they would give you an award on the spot.
It really is true. How much? Imagine if they make a run. Imagine if the Colts win a Super Bowl with Phillip Rivers. Imagine how much his reputation would just change.
Hey, look, you would have to wait 5 more years for him to get to the Hall of Fame again, 5 years before he'd be eligible again. But I mean, boy, it would up his chances.
Yeah.
I just think, this is how the NFL is. As much as we say it's a short year, it's a long season. Because look, here are the Colts 8-1, and one of the big reasons why they were able to get to 8-1 this year was their health. Daniel Jones was healthy. That offensive line was producing. That they had weapons. They had great offensive weapons like Jonathan Taylor, the rookie of the year potentially there, and Tyler Warren, the tight end, Michael Pittman, all that stuff. And now you're starting to suffer injuries where they have 2 big injuries now in defense, Sauce Gardner and DeForest Buckner. Now Jones is out. I mean, and now you still have a challenging schedule the rest of the way out. We knew that the Colts probably were not going to be able to keep up their 8-1 start, but their 8-1 pace. But I don't think anybody would have saw this happening, and then all the injuries and stuff. I mean, the Colts very likely right now might go from 8-1 to not making the playoffs.
You know who this is really good for is the Chiefs.
Jets. Well, the Jets have the Colts pick.
That's true. It's very good for the Jets. It's also very good for the Chiefs. Because if the Colts drop out of this whole thing, and the Texans win the division, which could happen, I don't think it will, but it could happen. That's really good for the Chiefs because then the head-to-head with the Texans doesn't matter because they win the division.
True.
And now I don't think that's good, although actually it doesn't matter now that I think about it because they also lost to the Jaguars. So it might actually not make a difference. The Jaguars already have, 9 wins?
Yeah, they're 9-4.
So I guess that part might not actually end up mattering. But the Chiefs, I mean, look, we don't have much time left, but the Chiefs lost to the Texans, and what I didn't think would happen, but ultimately, I think it was the bad play calling that ended up leading to the Chiefs losing that game. Yeah. I really do. In the first half, they went for it on 4th down in their own territory. The Texans' offense is abysmal. The Texans are like the Iowa of the NFL. I mean, they're winning games with their defense. Their offense absolutely sucks. That's really what they look like.
I'm telling you, the defense is dangerous. That is a legitimate Super Bowl caliber defense. And I'll tell you, I think they're going to get in. The Colts are not going to make it.
Yeah.
Look at this. I mean, the last 4 games before we get out of here. Seahawks Sunday. Then they finish up against the Niners, the Jaguars, and the Texans.
Wow.
It's not going to be easy, but we'll see. Right. I mean, if there's anything we've learned about this NFL, we don't know.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. That's our show this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. We'll be back next week. See you guys then.
See you for the season finale next week.